All right. Hello, readers, and welcome to the She Reads Romance Books podcast, where today I am talking with one of my favorite authors, probably of all time. Gosh, she is honestly one of those authors who, no matter what she's writing, I'm going to read it because I know it's going to be a five-star read, and I just love that about her work. Here to talk about her new release, People Watching, is Hannah Bonam-Young. So, welcome to the show, Hannah.
Hi, oh my goodness, what an intro. I feel so special. Thank you.
It's
I'm
all
blushing.
yeah, totally all truth. Oh my gosh, I was so excited to hear about this new book. But before we dive into it, I feel like I need to say thank you again for joining the She Reads Romance Books Book Club this February to talk about Out of the Woods, our February book of the month. Gosh, I think we still talk about Sarah and Caleb and their love story. It was so fun having you join us and talk about it. So thank you so
Had
much.
the best time with you guys, like the best time.
It was a blast. I feel like, oh my gosh, we got this like amazing inside look into how you
The
plot your
chaos.
book, like the chaos that becomes this amazing like product at the end. And um, we were talking before about being summer, but I have to say thank you again for giving us another book this year because I'm a little sad that, summer, at least for us here in the States, has ended, but it's helping me accept it knowing that your book is coming out early September. So that's giving me
I
some.
mean, I have to say, like, it's so funny because Out of the Woods is such a summery, like, middle of June, July type, but it came out, end of January. And this time we finally got the timing right. Like, the book literally starts the first week of September. People Watching starts the first week of September, and then it comes out on the 9th. And I'm like, okay, seasonally, we're finally in the right.
Nailed it.
We
Yes.
nailed it this time. But yeah, it's funny because I've had, like, yeah, this summer and now this fall book, but they're, 6 months apart.
It's awesome. Gives you a little breathing room before you go back on tour again, right?
Yeah, a little bit of breathing room for
That's
sure.
true.
Emphasis on the little, but it's been a blast. Yeah, it's definitely feels like, all right, okay, we're doing this. Hell
Here we
yeah,
go
let's go
again.
again.
Yeah, rinse and repeat. Here we go.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Well, I haven't had a chance to read it yet since it comes out September 9th. Cannot wait.
Mhm.
But when we talked in book club, you told us a little bit about People Watching, and I still can't believe that we're now here on its release.
I
But
know.
for those tuning in, can you just tell us a little bit about what the book is about?
Yeah, I'd love to. So People Watching is it's a start of a new duet. So it's its own thing. It's not connected to any of my other books, although I will preface and say that there are some very obvious little links to some of my other books. I mean, it's set in Muskoka. You can probably put two and two together there. But yeah, People Watching is a small town, opposites attract, strangers to lovers romance about Milo and Prue. Prue is just shy of 25. She turns 25 pretty early on in the book, and she lives at home still in her small town of Baysville, Ontario, which is a real place up in cottage country. And she divides her time between working at her parents' grocery gas station store and taking care of her mom, who has early onset Alzheimer's. And her dad and her have this beautiful relationship, this really incredible friendship and bond, but ultimately he's worried about her. He really wants her to kind of flee the nest and experience more life. And Prue is very adamant that she has everything she wants and that this is the life she wants, and it matters most to her above anything else that she is there to take care of her mom and to help her dad because family is very important to her and she loves them very, very much. And so when we meet Prue, she's kind of just been given this, I hate to say ultimatum, but almost an ultimatum by her father about like, you need to get a life or you need to get out, basically. Um, and she's coming to terms with that and grappling with that because she's so busy taking care of her mom and she's so busy working at the store. But then one day, Milo comes into town. And yeah, what happens is, I won't spoil anything, but beginning chapters, I promise. But every once in a while, Prue's mom wakes up believing that it's her wedding day because of her early onset Alzheimer's. This is something that happened in my house a lot with when I was caring for my grandmother. She would often wake up and believe it was a special day of her life, and it was often her wedding day. And so she wakes up and they kind of run with it, and as they always do, and they're pretending it's the wedding day, and she's, playing the part of her aunt and not herself, and going through with it, and the store's closed, and Milo shows up trying to buy something from the store, just having arrived into town. And she's like, "We're closed." And he's like, "What's going on?" What's happening here? And basically, yeah, Milo is a nomadic artist who is returning back to the area after having traveled for 10 years. His brother is opening a brewery and bar with his best friend, and has another kid on the way, and just basically called in his siblings for reinforcement and for help. And so Milo and his younger sister show up back into town after not having been there in a very long time. And he is kind of just there to do what he needs to do and get out. And then he meets Peru, and they kind of have, again, this weird, strange, tumultuous first meeting. And after that, they develop this sort of unlikely friendship. I think they recognize a likeness in one another. They're both artistic types. Prue is a poet, Milo's an
Mhm.
artist, as I said. And they both have these very soft, tender hearts and this way of looking at the world and seeing its beauty and really appreciating humanity and its beauty. And they get each other, and they shouldn't work because they are really opposites in every other way, but they do. And eventually, their friendship turns into a friendship with some added benefits, shall we say. Milo is experienced in a certain way that Prue most definitely isn't, and offers, well, she requests his services, I should say. I was going to say he offers his services, but that's not the case. She is the one that instigates the
Oh,
idea.
true. Okay.
Yeah, and then from there, it's people watching is really it's a quiet sort of novel. It's really about internal conflict and healing and personal growth and learning to be content with the life you're given, and sometimes just accepting that, family dynamics are difficult, but that's really an important thing for both of them. They have these very different family dynamics, but both challenging in different ways. And yeah, they're just learning to deal with it and becoming better versions of themselves and supporting each other. And
Wow.
it's the start of a new duet. So I get to keep going in this world, and I'm having a blast in Baysville, I will say. It's been a really big joy.
That's amazing. Gosh, that summary was so rich. And I think that's why I love your writing, because I feel like you just work so many like details and nuances and character arcs and fun tropes into it all, that you get this just beautiful package at the end. Like, and you mentioned this at the club, all of your process. So, but how did the even basis of this story and the duet like come? Did it just like an idea pop to you while you were either writing Out of the Woods or another book, or where did it stem from?
So this idea has been around since before I wrote Out of the Woods. Parts of it since before I wrote Out on a Limb.
Oh,
And I didn't have the characters and the setting quite down, but I was a caretaker. I was lucky enough to be the caretaker for my grandma for a few years while she went through her dementia treatment, and then which progressed into Alzheimer's. And um, she was my favorite person, and I just love her so much. And I really treasure that time that I had with her. But I also found it really lonely to be caring for somebody who is still very much there, but honestly not.
mm,
It's a very unique type of grief. It's a very unique type of situation, and I knew from pretty early on in my writing journey that that's something I wanted to process, as I seem to keep doing, process through my book. Um, and yeah, and so the I had this idea ever since really I started writing because, like I mentioned briefly earlier, my grandma would wake up every once in a while and she would believe it was her wedding day. And sometimes it was the funniest part of my month. And sometimes it was the most heartbreaking part of my month, right? And that's really a unique thing with dealing with memory loss is just it's so inherently human, which is to say that it's like equal parts tragic and humorous and beautiful and awful.
Mhm.
And I think that it's just one of those things that I've wanted to write about. And so I had this idea that this couple would meet at her quote unquote parents' wedding day, except it wasn't for a few years. And I've been playing with it. And when I was writing Out of the Woods, I was like, gosh, I just love being mentally in like not northern Ontario, but further north than I am in
Mhm.
Ontario. And I've spent a lot of time in Baysville. It's this like small town between like other cottage country towns, and it's just picturesque. And it's been somewhere that's brought me a lot of joy and a lot of peace and a lot of comfort. And I wanted to hang out there. It's
Yeah.
sounds so simple, but it's really the it's just that. And so I started thinking about this book and kind of plotting it, and I knew that Out of the Woods kind of needed to come first. So I, would put Milo and Prue on the back burner, and then I'd be like halfway through writing Out of the Woods, and I'd be like, "All right, fine, guys, I hear you. I'll write one chapter, or I'll write one scene.
Love
I'll
it.
make a Pinterest board, or I'll make a Spotify playlist." But it's just been a real journey with them and kind of working through that story for quite a long time that there's no particular moment, I guess, that it kind of came from. It's just really been lingering for a while.
Mhm. Well, I'm glad you didn't let it just fall to the wayside, and now it's had able to have time to flesh it out to what you want it to be. And I
Yeah.
think it's really special for us as readers for you to share that it does have this personal connection to it, because I know you have that in your author note in the book, but you shared it on Instagram how much your grandmother inspired this in your experience with her. Was that um, knowing that you wanted to do that, was it sort of cathartic writing this, or was it really
Yeah.
hard and emotional, or a little both? I don't know.
All of the above, yeah. Um, there's one scene in particular, and I won't spoil anything, where Prue gets into bed with her mom and cuddles up to her, and just longs to feel like the kid again, like longs to feel like that maternal energy where it's not in reverse how it has been because she's become the caretaker.
Right.
And that scene took me like 8 days to get through because I just couldn't stop crying. Because I just remember that feeling. I remember I had a difficult few days and I just wanted to talk to my grandma and I didn't have her anymore, but she was physically there. And it's this very frustrating, but
Mm,
like heart-wrenching sort of feeling. And that was cathartic in a way. And it was, I mean, I certainly look back on that scene and I really love reading it. But I think other parts of it actually really brought me a lot of joy. Like I said, there's parts of it where it's if you don't laugh, you'll cry, and repeating yourself and the anecdotes about the like she believes so and so is coming over for dinner and so she has to find this one dinner plate that she gave her for her wedding gift, and it's like this person's been dead for 20 years and is not coming over for dinner. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
there is silliness to it as well, but it's still heartbreaking. And so I think I felt both things. I think there were often times where I felt really close to my grandma, which was really nice,
Mhm.
writing it. I don't know, not to sound too woo-woo, but I really hope somehow she's read it and like she
Yeah.
gets a kick out of it because she had a wicked sense of humor and she, on her more lucid days, would make fun of herself. And so I feel like there was a lot of processing that happened in the humor of it as well, not just in the catharsis of the like sad aspects of it. But it was hard. I think, I keep joking, I keep saying that I'm going to eventually stop processing things in the public eye.
Well, keep
Um,
it going. We love it. Yes.
but I don't know if I can at this point. I mean, like, I just think that, I mean, it's Milo's story too. So much of his heartache and his past and his history is so intertwined with my own. And I think this was a book that really just like sits in my heart very heavy and is very close to my chest. And It's special for that reason, but it's also incredibly intimidating for that reason. And I I think I thought like, each of my books as I released them seemed to get more and more vulnerable. And I I don't know at what point I'm gonna cut it off, but I think I probably should. But yeah, it
Well,
was a journey for sure. And it was nice to feel close to her again in that way.
I'm excited for you when I'm sure all of the messages will start flooding in, being like, thank you so much, or I felt seen because I've had to go through this, because just like your other books, and Out on a Limb, especially, where you can read, or readers who go through similar circumstances can finally be like, oh, I loved hearing this in the pages, or you helped me grieve, get over my
Mhm.
grief or work through it, that kind of thing. So I'm excited for you because I'm sure those messages are going to be coming, which will be
Yeah,
really
I
wonderful.
mean, it's still such early days, but it's been really wonderful to talk with some people who definitely like have dealt with memory care in their family and really felt a connection to it. And that's like the best thing in the world. It really makes it all worth it. But yeah, it's like you wish
Well,
you could
while we're,
take
yeah,
it
well,
away for everyone, right?
on a different note, I will say that one of the things that really stood out to me among the many about people watching was the sex lessons trope. I have to
Mhm.
tell you, I freaking love that. I don't want to call it a trope
Me
or just something
too.
that you pull in. Do you love it as much as I do? Because I don't know what it is. I just like eat those books up. So when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh. Was that like fun to write or
Oh
just
my gosh, yeah. Yeah, it was the most fun. I mean, I I always talk about Next to You, which was my second book, and that is friends to lovers. It's not sex lessons, but it's friends to lovers and it's friends with benefits. So the nature of their dynamic is sex forward versus emotional bonding or like a slow burn or like, in my other books where it's like it takes a minute to kind of get there. And I think when I was writing next year, I was like, this is so fun. I want to write only books where they are just going at it the whole time. Um, but then with people watching, I was like, okay, like I know it's sex lessons, and then I realized like we're getting towards the middle portion of this book and they haven't kissed yet. And I gotta like get things. So it felt like a really natural progression, which was great because I was nervous it would feel like too forward or too kind of quick. But no, it was a blast. I think there's something so wonderful about getting to write characters who again are opposites in that dynamic as well. Um, and and having like kind of these like lessons, but it's really what I tried to do was write it from a perspective of like obviously very consent forward and very like communicative, but really like it was so much at Prue's pace and so much communication between the two of them that I feel like at some points it felt like Milo was learning just as much, like about her, like and how she wanted to feel and how she wanted to be made to feel that way. And um it was one of those things where I love reading it so much, but it's a tricky balance of getting it to the right level of, okay, well, the control dynamic or what's the dynamic here and is everyone having a good time and is everyone feeling um but it was just so much fun and I was so proud of Prue for taking what she wants and taking control of those situations and just having the time of her life and I don't know, I just felt like I was like a backseat driver. I was like, look at them, they're doing such a good job.
Well, it's obviously, I mean, I love this sexiness of that, but there's something too about those scenes or those types of books that utilize that where I don't know, it's kind of like the vulnerability of it and yet the trust that's involved and like you said, the
Yeah.
communication. I just love how that all comes together. So I cannot wait to see how that works in this book. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I
Um,
hope you like it.
I'm sure I will. Oh my gosh. But this is sort of a random question too. It's thinking about this book. Do you like contemplate names or do they just come to you instantly? Because I'm like, oh, Milo and Prue, I love those names. Like, why those names? How did you come to them? So I'm curious.
Okay, this is an exclusive and it is embarrassing, I will say. Okay, well, actually, only one of them is embarrassing, but I'll start with Prue because it's not. Prudence is because of the Beatles song. A large part of people watching is her relationship with her father, Tom, and her father is the world's biggest Beatles fan,
Oh, that's awesome.
like an obsessive fan. He probably married his wife because her name is Julia, and that's also a Beatles song. And they met while he was playing in a Beatles band, like a Beatles cover band. And so it was natural for them to have a daughter and name her Prudence after the song. And Welch, her last name is because of Florence and the Machine, which is one of
Oh,
my favorite musical artists, and her last name is Welch, Florence Welch. And I just really love her lyricism and her poetry, and Prue being a poet, it kind of was like my little ode to that. Um, and then Milo came. So, so I love, if you've read Out on a Limb, which I know you have, Leslie, but for those listening, if you've read Out on a Limb and you recognize Beau's description physically, you will probably think, if you're like me, of Milo from Atlantis, um, who was like my childhood crush, like my first crush. And so I wanted to originally name Bo Milo, but it felt maybe a bit too on the nose, given that his exact description is supposed to be him. So I saved the name for later. Um,
oh,
and I just, yeah, I've always loved that name. Like you said, I love how Milo and Prue sounded together. So yeah.
oh, that's awesome. Yay. He got his name finally in a
I
book.
know. I was like, okay, well, now I can check that box off.
Yes, exactly. And he had, well, let's talk about Milo. Okay.
Yeah.
What are readers going to love about him? Why is he going to be our next favorite book boyfriend?
Oh my gosh. Milo is my problem child. I love him so much. It's my so I something I didn't mention earlier is this is my first dual POV with a MMC. So it's my first time writing from the guy's perspective, which was I could only have done it for Milo. I will say, like he demanded to be heard, he demanded to be seen. He, my I mean, he's a very complicated person, but on the surface appears very simple. And I
Mm,
think what I really loved about his character was that shifting from the first chapter, which is in his point of view, towards the end of the book, you just see him kind of remove these layers that he's even hiding from himself. And I think that he's someone who's experienced a great amount of pain
mm,
and a lot of kind of issues around abandonment and things that he's just kind of glazed over by traveling and seeing everything there is to see and meeting everyone there is to meet and kind of just giving into his wants and needs and not really, being present in his day to day. And I think that the more he has to stand still and kind of cope with those things and see his family face to face and sit in quiet rooms and contemplation, the more you kind of see him actually and who he really is at his core come out. And it's this soft-hearted, sweet person who just is so loyal and so caring. But at first he is this arrogant, you know, like loudmouth who's just like just so excitable and so silly and so goofy. He's driving in this van that's hanging on by a hope and a prayer.
mm,
And, he it barely makes it into town. And it's covered in like a million and one bumper stickers that he's collected from everywhere with like various lewd phrases on it. And he's just him and he's covered in tattoos and he's a triple Leo and he loves himself and there's a lot of confidence, but it's a lot of bravado as well. And it's I think that readers are just going to love him for who he is externally, which is funny and entertaining and sexy and charming, but also who he is on the inside, which is this soft-hearted, tender sort of guy who is an artist and just sees the world and sees beauty in it despite everything he's been through. And um, once he cares about someone, cares very deeply and will show up for them. And definitely like an acts of service type of guy. And I don't know if I could ramble about him all day. I have such a soft spot in my heart for him, but no, he's just lovely.
So did his voice, like going into it, you knew like, okay, I need like since this is your first dual point of view, did you go into it knowing, oh yeah, he's gonna have his voice right away, or did he just talk to you so much that he's like, no, I need my voice, even though you've never done it before. Here we go.
Exactly. Exactly that. Not determined to, but pretty set in my ways of writing single POV. Um, it was never really something that I felt strongly called to one way or the other, but I just thought I'm going to continue with what I've been doing.
Mhm.
And he's just like I said, he's a loudmouth. He just really wanted his voice to be heard. And I think too, because this has been announced, it's not a big secret or anything, but every time I say it, someone goes, "Oh my God, what?" Because Instagram is unreliable. But the next book is about his younger sister. And so I thought that, like it makes sense for us to meet her from his point of view, like that in that dynamic as well, and to kind of have this journey for their family is kind of what
Mhm.
connects this series. So it just made sense logically as well, but mostly it was just he has a lot of opinions and he likes to talk. Um, and yeah, and I think, it's just Prue is so wonderful and so amazing. But I just think that she needed that counterbalance too of this like rambunctious sort of fire energy to her kind of soft, calm lake
Mhm.
energy.
Oh my gosh, I love that about him. And I'm trying to think which do I like better, the mustache, the tattoos? I think both. And I'm so
He
glad
would want
both
you to
are
say
on the
both.
cover.
He would want you to say both. He would want you to say all three, the mullet, the tattoos, and the mustache, yeah.
Oh, the trifecta. There you go. I love it. Oh my gosh. And it sounds like now, like you've got some like significant vehicles now in your books that like stand out. The bus, and now you got his like van. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Bertha the Van. She's a character of her own. He really does think she can talk. Milo really is adamant that she has a voice of her own.
I love it. Okay, so we talked to Milo. I love him. Oh my gosh, can't wait to meet even more of him. So, Prue, what are readers just gonna? I mean, she's sweet already. She's caring, family oriented. But what's some of your other favorite things about her?
I think what I love about Prue is that she is sweet and she is family oriented and she is loyal, but she's also fiercely like just she's fierce, really. She's someone who loves deeply in a way that is equal parts tender and forceful. She
Mhm.
um is very stubborn and she's someone who really just knows what she wants. Um and I think that she's very set in her ways, which is both a beautiful thing and a fault in some ways. And she is very much in her own head. She's an introvert to be sure. And she just, I think the way Prue sees her life unfolding and the life around her. I mean, the name of the book is People Watching because of Prue.
Mhm.
She works in her family's store and she builds this vivid imagination around herself based on these people are just kind of passing through on the way to somewhere else because most of the town she's familiar with, but most of their visitors to the store are people who are kind of on their way to go somewhere else or stopping for gas, they're stopping for snacks, they are stopping to pick up groceries before they go to a cottage, never to be seen again. And
Yeah.
so she really has built this world for herself in her imagination about these people and people watching and this her creative energy is so wonderful and I mean I'm biased but I love her poetry that is featured in the book and I love the way she develops relationships with her dad and her mom and despite frustrations with her mom struggling with her health, and despite her frustrations with her dad and the arguing over her mom's care or what she's supposed to do with her life, Prue just loves them so adamantly and so loyal, with so much loyalty and so fiercely, um and does it in a way that she puts her needs lower, but it's never in a martyrdom, and it's never in a sacrificial way. It's a necessity, and she accepts that as an honor. And I think that's really beautiful, the way that she kind of sees it as like her privilege in life is to do this because she loves them and they were such good parents. And she has kind of, this just it seems so obvious to her. Like there's never this like, woe is me.
Mhm.
I want to be, she loves them and she shows up and it's hard and she lets herself feel those feelings, but she also just knows what needs to be done. And she's very determined and very strong in that way.
Oh, I adore books with strong heroines, but I think I love them the most when they're like the quiet ones
Mhm.
because they have this inner strength that doesn't necessarily have to be the loud,
Exactly.
perfect
Yeah.
in their field, whatever, it may be. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like a big idea of this story too is that this whole idea of being seen, like seen in her life, seen in a potential relationship, is that part of it, or am I making that up? I don't know.
No, absolutely. I think for her, it's just because she has lived this relatively like recluse existence in the last few years, kind of all of her time is taken up between her parents' store, and her mom. Like
Mhm.
she has very little time for herself. And so she is definitely, whether she wants to admit it or not, is definitely feeling this lack of kind of feeling understood. And I think she maybe isn't even aware of that. I don't think she's really aware of that until she meets Milo, and then subsequently Milo's family and the people that they surround themselves with, where she has these kind of realizations of, you know, she she does enjoy being seen, and Milo gives that to her, and the way she sees the world is so pure and so attentive and so fixated that it's very rare for her to receive that back in kind. And I think that's what really like Milo gives to her, is that gift, because he sees the world in a very similar way, and therefore her, and he's just obsessed with her. So I think it's just it's nice because she is someone who spent so much of her life watching, kind of feeling on the outside looking in, and then all of a sudden there's just this person who's just, you know not to give too much away, but drawing her and trying to get to know her and trying to understand her. And because their brains work so differently and because they're such different people, he's really digging at her layers and trying to make sense of her, because he's met all of these people and he's been all over the world, and yet he can't quite figure her out,
Mhm.
because she does have this quiet strength, like you said. And that's a, not a rare personality per se, but it's also just somebody that, takes more time.
Mhm.
And what Milo's not been doing for a very long time is taking his time with people.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's just a very unique dynamic for both of them.
Oh my gosh. You make it sound so simple, but there's so many of these ideas that you weave and just even their creative, arts that they have and all this stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, the details, it's amazing. So I'm dying to ask this question. So when you were in the book club, I love that you shared that you put together playlists, right, for your books, and that there's usually a song or two that really stand out for the couple. Were
Yeah.
there any song that really stood out to you for people watching?
Oh my gosh, so many. It's funny because I think I mentioned this in the book club too. I always listen to one song on repeat
Yeah.
while I'm writing, and then to the point where it's no longer words, like when you say fork too many times and it stops becoming a word. Um, because I need music on to focus, or I need some sort of sound. I have two young kids and a busy household, so it's just, I need something playing that's not just brown noise or whatever. And so I kind of choose one song and I hyperfixate on it and I just play it on repeat. And That song very rarely has anything to do with the book, but I just associate it so heavily. So I'll say that one first, but please know that that's not relevant. This is just me wanting to share a favorite song. But it's actually a cover, but it's called A Little Bit of Everything by Lizzie McAlpine. I listened to that song nonstop for months while writing this book. I think it weaved its way into some more tender, soft moments. It's a very beautiful song. I highly recommend listening to it. But as far as their playlist and songs that are really for them, I mean, obviously we have Dear Prudence by the Beatles. We also have Julia by the Beatles, which is Prue's mom. And if you listen to both of those lyrically, they really do make sense for their characters. I took a lot of inspiration from those songs. As far as a song for the couple, I think I really loved Let the Light In by Lana Del Rey and Father Misty, I believe it is.
Mm.
Harvest Moon by Neil Young was another one that I was listening to a lot. Whenever I needed to kind of get in Milo zone, as I call it, like kind of like amp myself up and become this like exuberant hot guy. I don't know how else to say that. I would listen to play that funky music.
Awesome.
Or I Believe in a Thing Called Love by The Darkness was another one that I frequented. I put a lot of tender loving care into their playlist, and it's on my Spotify. It's visible for everyone to see, and I am pretty proud of it. But really, ultimately, the debate has been whether it's People Watching by Conan Gray or People Watching by Sam Fender. And I'm here to say that they're both on the playlist because both ones scare me equally. But I will say I didn't know about the Conan Gray song before I started writing. I did know about the Sam Fender one, and I had listened to it about 1,000 times.
Oh my gosh, that's
So
awesome. Hmm.
that's all I'm gonna say.
Good enough. Equal love all around and for all the songs.
Exactly.
Well, in addition to, the main characters and Milo's family and all that stuff, it sounds like Baysville is sort of its own character. And I know you
Yeah.
mentioned how close that is to you, but can you share a little bit more about its importance and why you wanted to focus this book there?
Yeah, so Baysville is this tiny town in Muskoka. You used to be able to say it's a stoplight town, but now they have two. They've recently
Oh.
upgraded. But it's a town I've been visiting since I started dating my husband when I was 14. Um, I went actually before that and I write about that in my author's note where his younger sibling invited me up and I had the biggest crush on my husband. And so I was like, yeah, I'll come for a week at the cottage with you guys. And it's such I'm trying to find this photo so desperately because my mother-in-law and I have a very big memory of this and I know it exists, but the first time I went to Baysville was for this cottage trip with my husband's family way back then. And in this photo we took outside, I'm wearing a Beatles t-shirt and
Oh
I
my
find
gosh.
it so bad. But anyways, that's besides the point. If I find it, you will see it. I will be posting it everywhere. But yeah, no, Basil is just this really special place for me. It's the place in my mind that feels the most romantic, because it really just held those first moments of, being around the person and looking at the person and giggling with the person that would someday become my husband. And I went after that point every single year with his family and then eventually we started, going up on our own. And then eventually we took our kids. And it's just been this place where I feel very like nostalgic about this one corner you drive through and you make this turn and you see the Baysville sign and you're basically through the town before you've even blinked. But in my head, I have this image of we pass through this sign every year. And if there was a little camera on it, taking us like a little glimpse of what our car looked like every year, right? We went from this minivan crammed in with him and his siblings and his parents. And then it was, an SUV when we drove up separately with his dad or his mom or whatever. And then, a year after that, it's us in our in his first car, his like tiny Toyota that was like falling apart, and it's just us. And it's our first trip, just the two of us. And then a couple of years later, it's us in our first car, which was this horrific Nissan Cube. And I loved that car. And then the next year there's a car seat in the back. And then the next year we're in our van of our own and there's two car seats. And I just have this feeling every time we drive through about like just being back into this place that has just seen us grow up and seen our life unfold. And I think that really translated into kind of Prue and what she experiences, which is kind of this feeling of people passing by and people watching and kind of this coming and going that she experiences. And really Baysville and her kind of bled together in that way. But I will say, it's very loose adaptation. I do not want the people of Baysville to get mad at me. I don't want visitors of Baysville to get mad at me. I was very clear in my author's note. I wanted to honor a place that matters a lot to me. It's a very loose interpretation. It Do not go there and expect to find any of these businesses or any of these people. But I thought about naming it something else. I thought about making up a little town and I thought about, but I kept coming back to just this feeling of, but this is
Mhm.
important to me and special to me. And I just want to honor it in this way. And I put a couple of little things in there where it's like, if you are familiar with the area, you will get this little inside joke or this like throwaway comment. But yeah, no, it's a place that's been really special to me and my family. And I was literally there 2 weeks ago and I took my art copy of People Watching and I like
Oh,
showed it around the town. I don't know why I was just like
of
pointing
course,
at
yeah.
buildings. I was just like, look, like and I took some pictures of it and I just it was so emotional just to like be there and it's strange because it's this place I'm so familiar with, but now these kind of the reality of it and the imaginative version of it that I've created in my mind were trying to merge and it couldn't merge and I was like,
Mhm.
why isn't Milo here? Why isn't Prue here?
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
weird.
that's great. Oh,
Yeah,
how
it was
special that you have a place like that you've gone to year after year, even if it doesn't change it beyond a second stoplight, that
yeah.
each year you can be like, wow, this is what's changed for us, and yet we're here again, and we have this consistency. That's really special. Oh, love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something, I don't take lightly. I have very few things in my life and in my experience, especially my experience growing up and in my family of things that were consistent and there year after year and
Hmm.
things that didn't change. And so, being 13, 14, and then having something that is now continuing into my late 20s that is consistent and is still there, like is so fundamental for me. And I think that's why, like, again, like the same thing that it influenced Prue, it also influences Milo of this. He didn't have this kind of consistency or this steadiness. And he's kind of finding that for the first time in this town.
Hmm.
It's My therapist will have a field day with this one, I'm sure.
Well, with so much that you bring into all of your stories, and including this one, looking back now on either the experience writing it or, gone through the editing process, is there a scene you loved writing, a scene that you look back on that you're like, oh, this made the book, or favorite parts to highlight?
Yeah. Oh gosh. I think there's a scene, I mean, there's so many later in the book, but I feel like I can never open that can of worms, especially before the book's out. Um,
Okay, we don't need to spoil. That's fine.
but there's one part of the book that just makes me smile every single time when I think about it. And it's just, right after they're having this sort of will they, won't they friendship, right? Because they don't make sense. But it's also like he's curious about her and she's indifferent. And he shows up and she's having a bit of a pity party and she's lying face down on the floor just blasting music in her little A-frame cottage, just full blast. And
Mhm.
he kind of knocks and he's like, what's happening here? Like our wellness check. Um, and there's just this stupid line. It's a stupid joke, but it makes me laugh every single time. And he's like, you can't listen to this kind of sad music to get yourself in a better mood. You need to listen to like upbeat, like more fun stuff. And he says, you know, she's like, that sounds healthy. And he's like, you can't spell repressed emotions without do re mi. And I was like, I am
Nailed
very,
it.
I'm not one to laugh at my own jokes or like give myself a pat on the back. And I was like, that's funny.
Girl.
I was like, I wrote that. I'm proud of that. And then, you know, they go on to have this like ABBA dance party because he's obsessed with ABBA. And as, you know, all 28-year-old
Yeah.
men are. And yeah, and it's just the scene where they're dancing around and being silly, and Prue's not often silly, and she's kind of getting out of her shell. And I can see it so clearly that if it was to be a movie, it's a movie in my head regardless. That's
That
just
is
the scene I go to.
nice. Well, I want all of your books to be made into a movie, but
That would be
fingers
fun.
crossed that this would be, because that would be amazing. So next one's people pleasing. Is that correct? So that'll be the
Yeah,
next
people
duet.
pleasing.
Yay. Okay. So we have that one to look forward to after this.
Yeah.
Um, and then I was just on Goodreads. Hello, did you put that there's another next book coming out? A third? Did I see that correct? Next time around?
Hey, this keeps popping up. I didn't do that. There's no third book. Like there isn't. There was Once Upon a Dream I was going to, but then I decided to write out on a limb. Like this is like 2022, 2023.
That is
Like
so funny.
I said, I'm gonna write this third book, and then I deleted everything about it from my end because I said, I'm not gonna write that book, actually. I lied. And it's been like popping up for the past like
But
two
that is so
years.
funny because I was like, hold on, what is going on? Okay.
Oh, you know,
I'll
I don't
manage
have
expectations.
Goodreads. I don't have access to Goodreads anymore. I haven't for a very long time. I've made it like blocked as if I'm a child and it's like a pornographic website. It's like it's not even possible for me to access at this point. That's what's healthy for me. But every once in a while, someone will message or DM and be like, "Oh my gosh, this third book." I'm like, "Hey," I feel like I have to sit them down and be like, I'm really sorry. I
Oh, I'm
don't know
sorry.
why this
I'm
is
sorry to bring it up. Yeah.
happening. I'm, that's not going to happen. We are very moved on from that point, but you know, I mean, never say never, but it's a definitive has not been written, no intention of being written.
Nice. So are
Um,
you still then in Baysville World working on people pleasing, or is that one
yeah.
like
So people pleasing, I submitted my first draft about a month ago, and I'm working through edits now.
nice?
Yeah, and I just finished up another little itty bitty secret project that I'm not allowed to talk about yet, but that's something I'm really excited about. So keep an eye out for other news for that. That's
Awesome.
separate from everything else. But yeah, people pleasing is the follow-up in the duet of people watching, and oof.
Mm.
As I said, I keep getting more vulnerable, Leslie. I need to be stopped. It's a problem. I really do think I'm going to take a hiatus from vulnerability after this one, but it's a really special book, and I think when people get to know Nadia from Milo and Pru's story, Milo's younger sister Nadia, they are going to see why I love her so much and see why she just demanded to have a book of her own.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait. Oh my gosh. And
I never want to leave
whenever you
the
feel that's
flesh.
too vulnerable, just text me or whatever, and I'll be like, it's okay. We love it. Keep going.
Yeah, I my therapist is like, okay, for sure. Um, you sure? Yeah. What's the
Oh,
worst
man.
that could happen?
Well, do you do
No.
anything fun like on your own or with your family, like to celebrate each new release? Because it's a big deal, like how much work goes involved and it's like birthing a new baby, I'm sure.
No,
Like,
I feel like it's harder, honestly. I
yeah.
mean, I had awful pregnancies and labor, so I'm lying about that. But but I think no, I mean, usually I have noticed that I have more of a tendency to celebrate like submitting my first draft and then submitting my revisions, and then like it's kind of like I'll pick different people for like I'll be like, okay, me and this friend are going to go out when we submit the draft, and then me and this friend are going to go out when I submit my revisions, and then me and my husband or me and my best friend slash PA Sophie are going to go out when it's like fully fledged, done, accepted, the book is done moment. Because really, like the release, it's like for Out of the Woods, and now for people watching, like I'm going to be on tour, which is a celebration in of itself, but a very, a bit different than going out for dinner with your
Yeah.
husband is celebrating with like 300 strangers in a room,
Oh
where
my,
they're going to ask you
yeah.
questions. But still really fun, just
Yeah, yeah.
very different kind of experience, and back to back plane travel in between, but like it's gonna be a blast, and I'm excited for it. It's just release days look a little bit different now.
Yes, that's true. Oh my gosh. Well, I am so excited for this book and then people pleasing after it. So thrilled for you. And I hope tour is fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, People watching will drop September 9th, people. So make sure you go and get it. Before you go, if there's anything else we need to know about the book, or can you tell listeners where we can find you online or on socials so we can stay up to date on all that's coming next?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything else. I feel like I probably said too much,
Oh
honestly.
no, lovely.
Um, but yeah, I really hope everyone listening, if you do pick up a copy and you do happen to read it, I hope you enjoy your time in Baysville. I hope you love hanging out with Milo and Prue as much as I do. Keep an ear out, an eye out for Nadia, and it's pretty obvious who she's ending up with, let's be real. I was gonna say try to guess, but it's a small town. Um, but yeah, and online, I'm mostly on Instagram and TikTok. I'm most probably active on Instagram and TikTok, but I have a Facebook group as well that I love and get to pop in and chat with those folks there. It's a smaller group, which really makes it nice because we can, chat a little bit more. And yeah, those are all linked in my Instagram bio, so I won't bother with all of them, but my Instagram username is author Hannah BY. I would never force anyone to type out my last name. Nobody can.
But it's worth it because we love your books and we're so grateful for all that you do. I'm so happy for you and can't wait for the success of people watching. Thanks for your time today. This was a blast. Great to catch
Thank
up
you
with
so
you.
much. I love hanging out with you every time we do this, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.